How the hell is it December already? I swear it was March like last week. Anyway, like it or not, the holiday season is upon us, and chances are if you watch this channel, you'll be looking for some games to pick up over the holiday season. Possibly for others, but let's be honest, probably for yourself. I thought I'd make it easy for you and let you know which games are worth picking up with your hard-earned cash. Now, I'm going to try and keep it to games either released this year or games that had major DLC releases or big updates this year. And of course, since it's kind of the entire gimmick of this channel, I'm going to try and stick to strategy games, but I'm probably going to stray from that a little bit because a lot of good games came out this year and not all of them were strategy games. So let's waste no more time and dive right in with the most obvious games to talk about. Baldur's Gate 3. Now, we are technically stretching the definition of what is a strategy game, but there is a ton of strategy to be had in this masterpiece of a role-playing game. And honestly, if I didn't talk about this game, I'd be like the only person in the entire world that hasn't, so, you know, I might as well fit in with the crowd. Everyone and their dog already knows about Baldur's Gate 3, but if you somehow don't, please tell me how life is under that rock. And secondly, it is possibly the most deep, rich RPG game that came out not just this year, but possibly ever. The depth of the role-playing in this game to play pretty much however you want is unlike anything that I've ever seen before. And there was a good few months where I would do pretty much nothing but play this game, much to the detriment of any work. Even if you're not normal into CRPGs, like I wasn't, I encourage literally anyone to try out this game. I think it'll seriously change your mind. Maybe not the entire genre, but this game is well worth playing even if you are not into the genre. It is literally unlike anything you will ever have experienced before. The level of detail here is astonishing. Characters you can literally fall in love with, an excellent story, baller soundtrack, and top-tier dev team that continue to improve this masterpiece. You can even play this entire insanity of a game with your friends, giving you basically a video game version of D&D. So you can form a party and do literally whatever you want, even if that want is playing dodgeball with a halfling goth girl.
I'm going to throw monsters at you, my most powerful... Actually, genuine...
So much blood.
Genuinely,
we'll
it was
take
my
this.
most powerful ability. Oh yeah? How do you feel about... What are these?
I bet you weren't expecting one of these.
An interesting retort. What say this?
I absolutely recommend to anyone with a PC or a console that can comfortably play this game to pick up a copy and do so. You will not be sorry. There is a reason that it doesn't come on sale. Because it doesn't need it. This game is well worth it at the full price. Next we have Warhammer 3. Whew. Going from such a high to, well, Warhammer 3. Now, we talk about this on the Old Grumblers podcast basically every single episode. But Warhammer 3, in a vacuum, is a good game. Hate me in the comments all you want, but it is. Now, sadly, out of a vacuum, when you take into account everything that CA has done recently, like threatening to kill the game if DLC doesn't sell well, overpriced and underwhelming DLC a la Shadows of Price changes, hell, even accidentally advertising the wrong discount price for the Forge of the Chaos Dwarves and then send out an email correction rather than just being like, oh, you know what, we fucked up, but we'll put it down to that price anyway, because let's be honest, that's probably what it's worth. Still probably a bit too expensive if you ask me, but I digress. Now, yeah, it's hard to recommend that you go out and support this company, which has shown that they don't really care about us and they're just looking to milk the audience for as much money as possible. And I know that every company is technically doing that, but they didn't really have to say it and show it quite so obviously. At least be a bit subtle, CA. Come on now. That puts you in a difficult position where I recommend the game, but I don't recommend the company. Because yeah, shocker, this game is actually good. This year's DLCs were super overpriced and I felt underdelivered for that price. But if you go past that into previous year's DLC, all the way back to Warhammer 1, there's some jank there, but the DLCs were well worth the price and there is a massive amount of content. Literally hundreds, possibly thousands of hours of content if you decide to play a campaign of every single faction. You have this massive map, hundreds of factions, hundreds of settlements, more unit variety than you can shake a tree man at, every faction feeling unique both in campaign and battle, and that unique blend of turn-based and real-time gameplay that's all what is known and loved for. No matter what CA do, the game is still technically good. I don't think anyone can actually argue with that if you look at it purely in a vacuum. But man oh man, have CA done a lot. So I'll leave it up to you whether you want to support this game and the company behind it. At this time, I don't feel comfortable recommending that you give CA money. They still have a lot of work to do to redeem themselves in my eyes and improve their relationship with us. Next up, Stellaris, and this very much didn't come out this year. In fact, this is close to being 10 years old than it is coming out this year, which is horrifying to say the least. Nevertheless, Stellaris continues to be one of Paradox's most popular games, and if you ask me, is probably one of the best space-based strategy games that you can play right now. And I'm not gonna lie, this year hasn't been the best for Stellaris. We had 3 DLCs, 2 of them have mixed reviews, and 1 is mostly negative. But still, that doesn't stop this from being a great game once you actually have everything that you need to play it. While games like Warhammer 3 have DLCs, which, when done right, is fun, but not essential. You basically bind the faction to play as them. In Stellaris, things are a little bit different. There are several DLCs in Stellaris which add pretty much essential features to the game, and you get a worse experience without them. Now, I've already made a video putting every piece of DLC into a tier list, so check them out if you want details, But I would say Utopia and Federations are pretty much essential, so if you're looking to get this game, they're the place to start at the bare minimum. That being said, even without DLC, the base game has hours and hours of content with all different combinations of Empire traits, civics, and much, much more, making each playthrough just a little bit different. The game can be intimidating to new players, which is why I have a over 1 hour long complete beginner's guide to get you started. But once you know vaguely what's going on, it can be a whole lot of fun. Maybe hold out for a big sale if you want some DLC to pick up a big bundle that normally has a lot of it bunched up. I'm on a pretty heavy discount around this time of year, so just hang fire and wait for Steam sales. But if not, then just the base game, it is definitely worth every penny. It's another one of those you can get hundreds, if not thousands of hours out of if you really go in and try to get the most out of every single thing. Next up we have Age of Wonders 4, staying with Paradox for a little bit because let's be honest, they're pretty much the only person that's released like 1,000 strategy games this year. This game not only came out this year, but it also saw 2 fairly sizable expansions. Now, if you've never played an Age of Wonders game, the best way I can describe it is a mix between a very gentle RPG and Civilization. You have your turn-based campaign and battle gameplay where you fight towards a number of victory conditions, and these can vary massively depending on which of the numerous realms you choose to play on. But aside from that, you can really play however you like and customize literally everything about your empire and its heroes. Whether you want to be a nation of magical lizards or birds with guns, you can really do it all and pretty much always have a viable build. Now, while this doesn't have the same scale or real-time battles of Warhammer 3, if you're looking for an alternative, if you don't want to support CA, I would say Age of Wonders 4 at the minute is the most recent and probably the best example of a game that kind of scratches the same itch. It's pure fantasy, and honestly, I'm here for it. The base game is great, and while the expansions certainly aren't too cheap for what you're getting, they are very well reviewed and offer more game, but only if you're interested in what they have to offer. If you like dragons, then yes, Dragon Dawn will be for you. But if you're not interested, you're not really missing out on anything. Unlike Stellaris, where the core gameplay features are bundled into the DLC, the free updates in Age of Wonders 4 normally add all the core gameplay features that you would be missing out on, so even without getting the DLC, you're still getting updates and more things added to the game over time. This is a really solid game with loads to do, and every single time I pick it up, I find something new that's either confusing, possibly frustrating, but most of the time a lot of fun. Now, this isn't a cheap game, especially if you want access to that DLC from day one, so maybe wait for a sale if you want to grab a bundle, but I cannot recommend this game enough. It is tons of fun. There's just a crap load of variety right out the game with a strategy game like this that is also an RPG. That is a very, very good thing. All right, looking at my list, I think this is the last of the Paradox published titles, and that's City Skylines 2, which is going to be a bit more of a mixed review here because while it is kind of good, it's also kind of bad. Well, this is a pretty controversial launch for a lot of reasons. The main one being the developers literally said, yeah, this isn't ready, but we're going to release it anyway. And whoever heard that before, Immortal Empires? Yeah, that'll be £42 please for this game that we have said is not ready. But beneath all that, you have the foundations for something that I don't doubt in the next couple of years will really be a very great game that not only replaces the original, but probably surpasses it. So yeah, poor performance, and on the content side, it is basically Cities 1 without too much DLC, so why would you play it over the first one? Well, as I said, this is a foundation which will be used to build a sequel fitting of Cities 1 that hopefully surpasses it. Cities 1, which is turning 9 years old in March, by the way, so I think it's a little bit harsh to expect the sequel to be as feature-packed on launch. And all that being said, these foundations, once they're smoothed out and able to run on a mortal PC, will actually be pretty solid. All the same stuff is here from the first game, but it's all just a little bit better. The way you unlock new buildings is instead up to you, instead of being locked behind each tier of city. Upgrading existing buildings rather than making entirely new ones is a great feature. Everything is just a whole lot more streamlined, and the maps are bigger than ever, which in a city builder is a pretty great thing. Now, with all that in mind, should you buy this game right now? Honestly, probably not. I'd wait until it's had a few patches smoothing things out and then maybe catch it on a sale sometime in spring. The only reason I'd say to grab this now is if you want the best looking city builder on the market, because if you can run this thing anything close to high settings, man, this game is pretty. Also, if you can run it, please let me know what it's like working on the NAS computers. I'd be very interested to know how they work. Next up we have Boltgun, and yes, this isn't strategy, but it was covered on the channel and is semi-related since I know that you folks like Warhammer. I'm going to keep it short because this one is real simple. If you like running around at high speed, blowing various chaos species to jibs with a variety of punchy weapons, you're probably going to like this. Classic boomer shooter deal with fast-paced gameplay and combat that forces you to rapidly switch between weapons to take on the right enemies with the right arms. This one only got let down for me by the level design, making it pretty easy to get lost, but if you don't have object permanence of a Burger King Whopper like I do, you might have some more luck. Honestly, nothing more to say about this one. 92% positive reviews on Steam with over 9,000. I didn't even mean to make that dead meme. It literally is just over 9,000, okay, I promise. Anyway, well reviewed with a reasonable price, even without a sale. If you want some quick mindless booming and shooting fun, it's absolutely worth checking out. While I'm out of my genre, play Dredge. This is my game of the year, and that's going up against Spider-Man 2 and Baldur's Gate 3. It's just that good. This is the perfect Steam Deck game, and to me, a perfect game. Well worth the price of admission, and the DLC is pretty good too. I've literally played this twice this year, once when I first got it, and once when I got the DLC. Play Dredge. It's brilliant. Well worth the price, a little bit short, but a masterpiece. Anyway, coming back to strategy, we have Midnight Suns, and this one released just before the end of last year, but has had 4 DLCs this year as part of the Season Pass. Now, not gonna lie, the DLCs are a little bit mid, but the game as a complete package I cannot recommend enough. I think this is one of the most underrated strategy games to come out semi-recently, and I'm going to tell you why. On one side, you have strategic, turn-based combats with hundreds of different counters with unique effects and animations, and on the other side, you have endearingly cringe friendship building with a bunch of Marvel heroes living in a castle. Now, I know those two things sound like they go together about as well as cement on toast, but I promise you, if you lean into the cringe and just learn to enjoy it, because let's be honest, you can enjoy cringe things, this game is great. I picked the base version up on a sale, played like an hour, and then refunded it to buy the Legendary Edition so that I could get all the DLC because I was loving it just that much. Once I started playing this, it absolutely got its hooks in me, and I didn't stop playing it until I completed it, which took me just over 62 hours, so I did do a whole lot of side content. The game just gets better as more heroes join the team, you unlock new cards and abilities and spend resources found on missions to further enhance your characters and their home. Oh my god, this game is great. As more people move into your castle, you can even attend different clubs for some added flavor, like a book club with Captain America, Blade, Wolverine, and Captain Marvel. How great is that? It's cringe, but I love it. Hell, you can even take these dudes out on friendship days. That's right, you can't even romance these people, you just have to become the very best of pals. This shit is so endearing, and it literally helps you out in missions to be best friends with your co-heroes, I suppose. High levels of friendship unlock you new combo abilities and more, making all that time spent chilling in the hot springs with Blade well worth the time. As I said, the DLCs are a little bit mid, each offering a short series of missions based around each new character joining the gang. You have Deadpool, Venom, Morbius, and most recently Storm, who I actually haven't unlocked yet. I still need to play through the story, so I'll be going back into the game. I'm probably sinking way too much time into it. I cannot recommend this one enough. It just does not get talked about as much as it should. It is an absolute banger. Yes, the game is super expensive off sale with all the DLCs, but if you can catch it on a big sale like I did, it is well worth the full package. You can get hours and hours and hours of fun out of this one if you just accept that cringe is kind of fun. Standard Alien Dawn. This one sort of crept out of nowhere, at least to me, because I don't really pay the best attention to these kinds of things. So if you've ever played RimWorld, it's kind of like that, but in 3D. Your gang crash land on an alien world, and it's your job to keep them alive by building them up a base from nothing, catching and cooking them food, and of course, gearing them up to the tits with sharp sticks, guns, and sentry turrets to keep them safe from the local wildlife. While I'd say this game doesn't have the same replay value of RimWorld with the near infinite possibilities that game offers, this is still a pretty fun base building adventure. You have a handful of scenarios, each with their own unique mechanics and objectives, and the levels of tech you can build up to is pretty wild and a whole lot of fun. Each new discovery gets you excited on how you can use it to make your situation just a little bit better. Personally, I really enjoyed the base build and striking that balance between making sure you know the temperatures are right and people aren't going to freeze to death and get sick, but also making the rooms look nice and homely for my peeps. Speaking of which, even without dying of hunger or alien insects, you got to manage both the physical and mental health of your happy campers to make sure they stay happy and don't go on a murder spree because someone ate the last piece of termite toast. Honestly, even at full price, this one is pretty worth it. You can easily get your £1 per hour of gameplay, and if you want more, the DLC is right there too. Now, I haven't personally played the DLC, but it is rated mostly positive on Steam, so how bad can it be? And of course, you know Steam has a refund policy, so if you play the DLC and don't like it, you can always get your money back. Next up, we have Against the Storm. Now, I've not played anywhere near enough of this game to know what is really going on, since I just haven't found the time for it. But taking a glance at the Steam page, you can see that with 15,000 reviews, 95% of which are positive, plenty of people have played a lot of this game, and it is worth playing. From the images, it looks like a fairly basic city builder, but when you actually get playing it, you'll find out there is a whole lot more. The game is a roguelike city builder, which sounds like it makes about much sense as a Souls-like cooking game. Okay, never mind, that actually sounds kind of rad. But somehow it just works. This game revolves around building up a network of settlements to gather resources to upgrade your home base, the smoldering city. This will earn you quote-unquote meta progression, make each subsequent city just a little bit better than the last. Each settlement you create will have a random set of modifiers from the biome to events and available resources, making each new settlement into its own unique puzzle to work out exactly how to make things work. There are hundreds of options, making each new city a challenge and ensuring you never get bored of doing the exact same thing over and over, because, well, you never are. Like I said, I need to pour more time into this one, but for my short time with it, the only thing that matches my confusion in what to do is my curiosity to work out what to do. Possibly expect something on this in the channel in the future because there is a lot here to have fun with. This is also on the cheaper end of the list, so it's basically a no-brainer. If you like city builders and you like roguelikes, absolutely give this one a try because it's a great blend of the two that, as far as I know, has not really been done before. Alright, this next set is kind of a collection of games that I'm lumping together because honestly, they're all about as good as each other, and it really depends on what you want. Now, the Survivors genre wasn't invented by, but it was definitely popularized by Vampire Survivors, which came out last year, and has had some great DLC since then. If you've never played one before, it's kind of a step up from an idle game where you just move around and the shooting gets done for you, making them into extremely relaxing but also addicting games. We just want to play one more run, see if you can get to survive just a little bit longer if you choose a specific build. And yes, this counts as strategy, because you have to make decisions on what build to go with the right combination of abilities to beat the level. Am I clutching at straws because I want to talk about games I really love? Perhaps, but still, if you've never played one of these games before, then you'll quickly see why they're so popular if you just give one a try. Yeah, Vampire Survivors is great, and the DLC that came out this year is great, but there's a whole lot more of these games, some of which came out this year. Halls of Torment has a Diablo-esque art style and was my favourite to play on deck for a good while, with satisfying weapons and a truckload of progression to keep you coming back. Rotato, I believe, was in early access, but got a full release this year in June. This one is a more arena-based game with a smaller map and less enemies, but still has the same intensity with the close quarters combat, and of course, loads of progression to keep you coming. 20 Minutes Till Dawn possibly has my favourite art style of them all, and is a lot more Lovecraft-inspired, with eldritch beasts coming out of the darkness to take you down as you fight them off with a variety of weapons, hoping to make it till dawn. In the name. My friend who shall not be named also recommend Bone Razor, which I haven't personally tried yet, but apparently is more survivor fun with a crapload of bone-based puns. This is honestly not even close to naming all of them that came out this year because these games are popping up left, right, and centre these days, but these are the ones I played and personally enjoyed the most. And basically all of them are dirt cheap and can give you hours of fun no matter how mindless it is. And if you have a Steam Deck, these are all pretty much must-buys, and even without it, I can't recommend them enough. It looks boring, but I promise you, once you get playing it, you won't be able to stop. A little bit dangerous actually, so proceed with caution, but they are well worth it. Speaking of the Steam Deck, here's a game that is practically made for the thing. Now, if you're anything like me, then you've been playing Pokemon pretty much as long as you've been playing video games, and recently, they've been starting to feel a little bit rushed and heartless. Well, this game is pretty much the cure to all of that. So the elevator pitch is it's a Pokemon game, but instead of catching pocket monsters, see where the name comes from, in little balls, you instead collect cassette tapes and record monsters that you find in the world, and by playing them in your Walkman, literally transform into the monsters yourself. This game looks beautiful, both in the pixel art style of the overworld, the character portraits, and of course in battle. The soundtrack is bumping, there's actually a plot, and it's interesting. Remember when Pokemon games had plot outside of get all the gym badges and ruin whatever evil team plans and catch legendary Pokemon on the box art? Because I don't.
Okay, I've actually played more on it as both these things, but it's actually a really good joke when the game's still really good.
Within 1 hour of this game, I washed up on a beach in this weird town that no one knows how they got to, learned I can transform into beasts using cassette tapes, met and beat an Archangel, and am now on a quest to complete its song and maybe find a way to leave. And all this is supported by the backbone of the game, which is the combat. Mild strategy, yes, but strategy nonetheless. I get to work out all over again the different types of beasts and which ones beat others, swap moves and beasts around so I have the perfect team to take on anything, and 120 different monsters to collect, which doesn't sound like a lot until you realize they confuse with your companion's monster, making them over 14,000 possible combinations. And to top it all off, you can play this couch co-op, so if you have a partner or a friend or a dog that wants to play with you, then you can do just that. Honestly, I can't say it better than Eurogamer, and I quote, "It's a lesson in how to make a game that is delightful, cozy, and brimming with nostalgia without condescending to the adult audience. If you have ever played a Pokemon game or owned a cassette tape, please try this game. It is a beauty and fills me with joy every time I boot it up." Coming towards the end of this list now, and a little known fact about me is that I really love VR. I bought an original Vive with money saved up for my first job. I bought a Quest 2 last year, and this year when the Quest 3 comes out, it was just a must buy for me immediately because I love VR. It's so much fun. And naturally I want to mix my love of VR with my love of strategy games, and I came across a game called Barbaria, which doesn't sound strategic, but it actually really is. This game is pretty much the epitome of fun. If you've ever played the Mighty Quest for Epic Loot, it's basically that in VR, but you're a barbarian with massive arms that for me I could, hardly tell the difference with once I got into the headset. The premise of the game is to travel to other players' realms and beat each of their rooms to claim victory and ascend the ranks. You'll earn the currency, which is literally called violence, as well as new parts, which can then be used to build up your own realm, which other players will visit and attempt to beat. So half the game is dungeon base building with traps, monsters, and a variety of room pieces that only get crazier the longer the game goes on, and the other half is dungeon crawling to beat literally limitless numbers of players' created realms, either by getting your own hands dirty or by sending your champion in and providing support in your god form. Now yes, this is pushing the limit of a strategy game, but A, there's base building, so there's a bit of strategy there, as well as, the combat, you can kind of play it as the Overlord and just drop abilities down to help your guy, that's strategic. And also B, this means I can write the quest as business expense, so let me have this. Now, even if it's not the most complex thing in the world, it's still a great time that I'd recommend to anyone with a VR headset. You can get it on PC VR, you can get it on Quest, you can get it on PSVR too. Whatever VR headset you have, you should definitely try this out, it is well worth it. And if you're looking for something strategic on those headsets, it's probably the best scratch for that itch, since the genre isn't really represented that much in the headset, since a lot of the games are much more simple, but I digress, what can you do? And our final game on this list is a titan of its class. Heroes of the Storm. It got an update this year, it's come to Steam soon, I just know it. And that's it, that's my whole 8 buys guide. Yeah, it got a tiny bit off the rails towards the end there, but honestly this was an excuse to talk about games I absolutely loved this year, and I didn't even scratch the surface. I played tons of stuff this year, not a lot of stuff that came out this year, I loved tons of it. If you loved something that I missed out in my list, then please let me know in the comments below. I'm always looking to, add something to the backlog and make my pile of shame even larger. Like, subscribe, and if you want to know which strategy games are great specifically on the Steam Deck, then check out this video here to find out.